pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, without the source of all authority. May we use it in our directives for the common good, for the honor and glory. Amen. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Looks like Ryan Conrad is absent, but Mr. Joyce and Mrs. Joyce are here. So we have a quorum for the safety.
And he is
Meeting.
on his way. He said he'd be a
Okay.
few minutes late, so. Thank you. Okay, open it up with, we're gonna, for the Safety and Parks Committee. I'll turn it over to Margaret Joyce.
Okay,
Joyce, go ahead.
thank you. Just a couple things at the beginning here. As I was going through what the chief submitted to us at the last safety committee meeting, there was an item at the end where she requested that we look at the status of our radios. They're apparently not holding charges and things like that. So I'd like to add that to the agenda at the end.
I did put it in writing.
Right, I know.
We are on the MARCS system, and by 2025, the sheriff is recommending that all departments switch over to the statewide MARCS system. And Lake County Chiefs Association has provided the name of a woman that's a contact person that is trying to get, they just announced it at this past month's meeting for April. They're trying to get a number of who all is looking for radios so that we can buy it under a group discounted program.
Okay. And do you know what we need to do to be included in that?
I already sent her an email, but she's on vacation until Monday, so
Okay.
I'm waiting for a response from her. But I did tell her we have 6 portables. We're a small department. However, ours are 14 years old and they don't hold a charge, and our batteries aren't holding the charge, and I don't see the point in buying new batteries for 14-year-old radios if we have to switch over to the new system.
Okay.
Those new radios are very expensive.
Do you
I
have a
heard
wall
them
card?
Radios,
I heard them talking about them in the commissioners meeting.
we just, last week I had Grand River meeting and we approved appropriations for $72,000 for their radios.
For how many?
I'm not sure how many, but it's police and fire, because you know, we have fire.
Oh,
department as well.
okay.
But, I think they're $5,000 a piece.
Did they go?
They got a grant,
Oh, they got-
so they only had to pay 1% of it, something like that.
Okay. Well, I sent an email to this person that was named in the chief's. They send minutes of the meeting, and as a result of the minutes of the meeting, it was like, here, we're reaching out to, I think the name of the company is Communication Services. And I sent an email to her, but I got the auto reply that she's out until Monday. But they're trying to work with all the departments in the county for special pricing. I have not checked into any grants.
I'll see if I can find out what they're doing.
Okay. That would be helpful.
Just as a follow-up to some of the things we touched on at our previous meeting, I don't know, do you have a chance to track down how old the tasers are? That I didn't do yet because I was working on another issue. I have the paperwork together for the body armor grant. And I did check, nobody's got a vest that is newer than 4 years old. Some of them are a lot older than that, but it also depends, as we discussed, how much they've worn them. They are all happy if we go this grant route. I have and that's the one that I said I sent an email to that I hadn't gotten a response from. I still haven't gotten a response, so I went ahead and filled out the whole application. I do have a quote from Shutlers for what it would cost.
and I will go ahead and submit this because it has to be signed by a chief or a sheriff. And I'll go ahead and submit this and see if
That's
we're
a
up.
quote on what?
Body
Body-
vests, body armor. It's a uniform supply store. They're in Highland Heights in Parma.
Just one thing, I think Axon was the one who supplied our tasers and their paperwork goes back to 2017. Does that make sense? Do you think they're newer than
Our
that?
body cameras were from Axon.
Okay,
Our first set of tasers were from Axon.
okay.
I don't know who our second set of tasers are.
Okay,
from.
so we're not using the Exxon ones currently.
No, we're using what's called X26P.
Okay.
And the previous before that was X26. Those are the old ones. And they did come from Axon. I don't know where these came from yet.
Okay. And one other thing is that the Lake County Sheriff's Department is willing to take a look at our long guns. They'll send a guy out for free to look at it. So there's an appointment at 10 a.m. this Friday. Then we can look at it, see whether or not they can be, cleaned and put back into service.
They're locked in our evidence room.
Okay. And do
And
you have
I,
any
as
suggestions?
chief, don't have the key to the evidence room.
Who does?
Detective Sergeant Swanson has the key, and I'll have to get with him.
Okay.
But I did talk to our range instructor who looked at the guns before they went in the attic.
Okay.
And he said, if you're ever gonna put guns in the cars, buy new ones.
Is he a certified armor?
Yes, he is.
He is.
Okay. Well, we've got that set up, so we'll have a second opinion on that. See what we.
That's this Friday?
It's this Friday at 10.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. Only the evidence officer has the key. We have a storage unit that I have a key to outside that room, but the evidence, and because they're guns and because we have people coming and going in the attic, they're locked inside. There's two doors. They're in the second door. But yes, no police department allows more than one person to control their evidence locker, as they refer to it, but it's the evidence storage room.
And because Officer Swanson is designated a detective, that's why, because it's evidence, because he's a detective.
No, actually, Simone was our evidence guy and I assigned it to Swanson.
Just curious, what happens if Swanson is at home and has a heart attack? Do you know where the key is?
Correct. And that's one of the reasons that I did it, because Swanson is here more than anybody else. We had issues in the past where before I was chief, someone that had the key to the evidence room wasn't scheduled to work in the next 2 weeks and
They could live a county away.
yes, and it actually involved guns. Somebody wanted to reclaim their gun that they were able to do, and they had to wait for this evidence officer.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think that's all I have for following up from what we talked about last time. So the next topic we had on our agenda was community policing. Our-
Can I back up one
Sure.
minute? We did talk about body cameras,
Yes,
and I do have some
Okay.
information that I can offer you. I talked to several chiefs about body cameras and dash cameras. I was unaware that you could even buy cheap, like $198 a piece, Velcro bottom, put them on the dashboard, so you don't have to retrofit a 10-year-old police car like the Taurus is, or even the Explorer that's a few years old already. A lot of the chiefs I talked to said that they've moved away from the actual body cameras to the dash cam, because it's cheaper. There's vehicles versus number of officers versus how many are on a shift, but these are departments that have more than one person on a shift at a time. Several of the departments told me that they moved to WatchGuard is the name of one company. And the other company they moved to was Digital Ally. It's ALLY. And I actually talked to a lieutenant today at City of Lorraine Police Department to ask them, because they're a good sized department. And when I mentioned data storage being really expensive, the other thing that this lieutenant brought to my attention today was the new, I haven't been on the Attorney General's webpage to look at public records as far as body cameras because we don't have any and it doesn't apply to us at this moment. But this lieutenant pointed out to me today that City of Lorraine is on their third company in the past few years for body cameras. They are looking at a dedicated employee that has to provide the public records to fulfill the public records request for body cameras because the new rules out of the AG's office, you have to blur the faces of children. You have to blur the face of anybody injured in an accident. And you have to blur the face of anyone that is disabled, whether they're young or old. And that costs either a software package or you have to have someone that is able to do it manually to fulfill their public records request. And this lieutenant I spoke to today said they're looking at hiring a full-time camera guy because they're so far behind on their public records request. But because of these new rules that when you release it, if you release it, you know, you're going to get sued if you have children's faces in it, or you have, especially a sexual assault victim, you can't show their identity. And if you mistakenly release that public records request without that person's face being blurred, it's an automatic lawsuit. He told me that they were looking at the software to do this per the Attorney General's office, and the software package is $40,000. So they're looking at hiring 1 or 2 full-time individuals to handle redacting from their camera system.
How big is the department in Lorraine?
Excuse me?
How big is the department in Lorraine?
They have 8 to 12 officers per shift.
Okay.
I can't tell you the square miles they cover. I can't tell you their total staff. I did ask because I asked how many banks do you have for charging radios? And he said their charging bank holds 40 radios at a time.
So my next question would be, in comparison to the number of calls that you report every month on your report, what does Lorraine get versus Timberlake? And
Lorraine-
could we expect that the ratio would be approximately the same?
No, all I did was reach out to bigger departments to see if they had grants, to see what they use, because obviously they're getting more use out of their body cameras than we did when we had our 3 cameras. I reached out to a lot of chiefs here in Lake County. A lot of the chiefs, and I said it at the last meeting, Willoughby, Kirkland Hills, who was the other one? I named 3 departments. They got away from body cameras because of the problem of downloading, redacting for public records request. I don't know the difference in dash cam video.
Okay, so we're comparing apples and oranges. here.
Correct, correct. But one of the things that was on your question that I responded to in the memorandum was body cameras. And, you know, I don't know if there's grants out there for that. I don't know if there's grants for dash cam. All I know is at the time we tabled ours, it was not beneficial to us to renew a contract with Axon or go with another company, A, because of cost, and B, because of data storage. Now, we do have a contract with Lake County, so I don't know if we could buy or even get on a grant, body cameras and store on a cloud, or does that cloud have to be part of our package for Lake County IT? I don't know.
Okay, we're mixing body cameras and dash cam.
Well, that's why I'm saying some departments got away from body cameras, and I'm telling you why.
No, I understand that. So is Lorraine doing body cameras or are they doing dash cameras?
They have both.
Okay, so the public records requests are coming as a result of the body cameras, or are they coming as a result of dash cameras?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay.
My concern was body cameras.
And is the storage requirement the same for dash cams as well as body cams? Don't know.
All I did was check on body cams. I didn't ask the questions for dash cams, other than one chief offered, are you aware you can buy them for $198 on Amazon? The dash cam that you stick up and not
Yeah.
mounting it in the vehicle. He
Right.
said, but you'd have to
That-
put it on a cloud.
Okay. And then you would have to have, if you had a public records request, you would have to have somebody go and then physically change that.
First, we'd have to have the equipment to do it,
Well, assuming you had the dash cams and you were storing on the cloud.
okay?
And then you got a public records request. Then you would need somebody to go through that dash cam video and adjust it so that children, disabled people, and accident victims all would have their faces blurred out.
And I don't know how that is done.
Okay, well.
I mean, like he
some-
said, there's,
somebody
you know, somebody would probably know, and somebody would probably be able to tell me the details of a software package. I'm sure with the amount of cameras City of Lorraine has, it's no wonder it's gonna cost like $40,000 for the software.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would cost for us.
That's what. Council as a whole. So the stuff is going, for body cams, and dash cams if possible. So what we need to do is continue to gather information towards that goal. And council at some point make that decision, you know, it's cost prohibitive or, you know, beyond the scope of what we have as far as talent, whether to proceed with that or not. But right now, what we're doing is we set sort of what's the standard, what can we expect, what is out there to fact finding. So it sounds like we need to do more to find that out. Now, unfortunately, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, Perry Village received a grant for body cams. And they have not arrived, they have not been put into service yet, so I don't have a reference point to kind of tell you where that is. But I think we just keep gathering information, and if we have to adjust the end result, you can always do that at a later time.
Well, if anyone saw the Lobbyists for Citizens video that was out, Sheriff Leon Bruno again endorsed them. And he said this past week at some sort of council committee breakfast, he said in 2020, he wasn't so sure about body cam. But now what he thinks the northern border is so open, he's definitely for them. That's what Sheriff Leon Bruno thinks the department should go for that. But like you said, we have to look at costs and so forth and grants. So,
And didn't he mention long guns as well?
yeah, he did. Yes, he did. Yes. He's not changing his story, and anything that I follow him, he's not changing anything. You know, he's not backing off or changing anything.
And how did the decision come about to not using it anymore? Excuse me, this is a safety committee meeting. And my memorandum, I gave written responses to the memorandum Mr. O'Leary provided to me. I would like to deal with the questions the safety committee has. I can answer your questions later at a council meeting, if that's what you choose. But I would like to address what is on this agenda, what and what we need to close this up.
Is there anything further on the body cameras, dash cameras?
No, but I have something further when we. As I mentioned, that some of the chiefs has said to me about if they're mandated to respond to an active shooter call. I did check into, I don't have a copy of it yet. I requested it through the Board of Commissioners for Lorraine County. Say, here's the mutual aid contract, especially the one they referenced that was signed in 2014. I don't know why nobody has a copy. But I have been told, and I have to go back to this mutual aid, Timberlake, and I mentioned it at our previous meeting, Timberlake cannot be mandated to respond as they tried to dispatch me to Madison Township, 29.5 miles away for an active shooter call when we are one person on. They cannot mandate we abandon our village. I understand there is a need for all police officers on deck. But on the other hand, to go that far and be gone for hours, they cannot mandate we abandon our village. So if we are not part of that mandatory response team, we are not mandated to have AR-15s and helmets.
Well, for that purpose.
For that, I'm just saying,
The
for that
of trying
purpose.
to Protect the officers, that's I mean, I think that was the primary reason why it was brought up,
Absolutely.
was the idea that we want to have the officers have all the protection they can have at their disposal. So, you know,
You did, Margaret, you asked me at the last meeting what shotguns cost, and the checking that I did, minimum is $1,500.
Can we go back to the cameras for just a second? Is there a grant you are aware of?
Expired.
Expired,
For
okay.
the cycle, but it's a
Hot topic.
yearly grant that opens up. So this one has packed today. So assuming that it's refunded reality.
Probably in the late summer.
Yeah,
Back.
yeah, I don't know when this one opened up, but
it might have been the one that Perry got.
and it was a 5-year one. So
That's what
it was 2019 to 2024, so it just depends. The
Yeah.
state legislature follows that program. The governor's office.
Okay, then there is an active open grant opportunity for body armor. Okay, so Chief, I have okay, you worked on that.
It's filled out.
It
It's
is.
ready to go.
Okay, so,
I'll probably keep talking to your answer.
okay, so I was just gonna ask, since Chief Wright is an expert at doing grant applications, he did that, okay.
No, he did not do that. He told me, this is easy, do it. They're on their third round of this through
Okay.
this program.
Okay. So my question is that if Mr. Conrad has his grant committee, and I know that Chief Wright works usually the third shift. If we were able to meet with him as he was coming off shift one morning, would that be impossible to set up?
Not coming off shift because he goes to another job.
Right, so it
But
have to
that's-
be-
I-
have to be
I
when he's
re-
coming in.
I reviewed this with, he said, when I asked him a week ago, after we had this meeting, go online, print it out. He said, you might even find which you'll see as type. So it was an open, you can fill it out online. He said, this one's easy. And I told him how I put in the phone call a couple weeks ago, because it says in the very front of it, for eligible departments. And he said, do it anyway. He said, what have you got to lose? It doesn't cost anything to apply, do it anyway, which it's right there and it's ready to go. So. What makes a police department? Excuse me, again, safety committees members is who I'm dealing with. Yes.
Asking what makes.
I don't know. That's why I put the phone call in, which is why I put the phone call in, but I haven't gotten a response.
And the chiefs, it's a lot of grant. nomenclature. Right, it's hard to understand.
It does say that.
And all of it. So
Okay.
I agree with this is the approach that I think. You ask for it, you submit the grant, and you get told no, you get told no, you spend some time filling it out, and I think that's a sound approach.
That was my advice.
Yeah, what's the worst?
Go ahead.
So going back to my original question, would it be possible for us to, even if it's that he's coming in for 11 o'clock shift, that he's able to come in, say, half an hour early so that we could meet with him before he went on shift?
I actually, when he left this morning.
Yeah.
And we talked about grants, he said he recommended that I come out to his station.
Okay.
And review all of his grant materials that he's written. He has taken the OPATA grant writing class. He was a captain before he was promoted to chief, so he's been doing the grants for his department for a while. And he wanted me to see his station, his grant writing, whatever. And I agreed that I would come out there this Wednesday. So I will talk to him about one or two of you meeting with him when he comes on shift. But then again, that's,
We're on the grant committee, or the grant committee would be willing to meet with him at his convenience.
Yeah.
okay,
You know, if he's coming in, he could come in, say, half an hour early, just to review what we're doing, to tell us about whether we'd be eligible. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things where, because he's got that kind of experience,
he's got expertise.
it would be great for us to be able to tap into that. And it might save us some time in the long run, even if it was a late night meeting.
I'll talk
What
to
I
him.
might recommend that if you do that, if you do a draft of it, is there an email that we could scan and forward it to him so that he has a chance to look at it before he comes in?
Yeah, you can do that.
Because in that way,
Yeah.
it can be more productive.
Yeah, I agree.
It's already drafted and maybe better suited for.
No, for this specific one, yes, but we're talking.
We're thinking about more about the
one.
one for the body cameras that we're
Yeah.
doing this summer.
There's
This
going to
one,
be-
June 30th.
That's why it's,
And closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's ready.
We do have it, I guess, if I may. Share, that's, there is a best for every officer.
Mhm.
I think we discussed a list of officers that require them to already have them.
All my guys wear them, okay? They're all old. And when I asked Michael Wright this morning, you know, you told me to do. I did it, look at it. And he reviewed this, that Ryan has in his hand. And he said, perfect. I said, what about the vest you're wearing? He said, it's 4 years old. I got it on grant.
There is another one for you, and just get your over.
The only reason I included myself. Talk to Shutlers, my body armor that I'm still waiting to be altered and returned to me is point blank. What I really wanted 3 years ago was Safari Land, which I had a real problem with Atwell's for the front cover because they made me a vest and sent it and it was a flat panel. What Shutlers has with their salesman for Safari Land is what is called a cupped and darted female vest. No, my vest was 1,200 and it was either 1,293 or 1,243. I was real surprised because I told you in the last meeting, I had no idea what vests cost. They're $1,500. My vest included 3 carriers, a white one, a navy one for under the shirt, and an outside carrier. These for Safari Land, the carrier itself is $400.
For reference, 9 male and $1,500 piece. 3 rows for 9 uniform shirt carried side openings, 3 rows of traditional poly webbing. Is that what else?
That, no, that is these, when I say traditional, it's epaulets on the shoulder, it's the pockets, just like the shirt. But down here, it's elastic bands. And you put your accessories, not, well, it's pouches. And those are mollies that fit, I don't know how to, you're gonna put a pouch on the front of your vest that's gonna hold your radio. The molly on the vest hooks up to the molly on the back of the pouch.
Those are so the total. Goes on this. So the total 25% match from the building fee, $47. $40 $50. Eligible reimbursement. Have to pay it. 50 for total cost. So. Fairly reasonable.
Michael Wright did say this is their 3rd batch of vests and they have used this grant every time it opens. And I wanted what you brought up to me about my vest. I said, well, I'll do 9 for the guys. He said, why aren't you doing yours? I said, mine's brand new. I haven't even had the chance to wear it a whole year yet. He said, but if you can get a good fitting one, I don't know how your other one fits. I said, well, I haven't worn it a lot, but if it's only going to cost 25% versus, I said, okay, maybe I'll take mine off of there. And he recommended I leave it on because it's 25%.
There's one spot here that just read that you have to put out the hours.
Right. I have to get with Johnny on that.
Okay.
May I ask a follow-up question about the vest? I don't know if Ryan or the chief would know this, but
I'll see it.
if we apply with the grants and we are approved and we pay our 25%, do those vests belong to the village or the officer?
Officer.
So they belong to the officer, and you said they're very custom, so we couldn't interchange them if we wanted to.
Each officer has to go to
Yeah.
and be measured. They are custom, they're not standard like what I was given at Wells 3 years ago. Each officer is fitted, he's measured, it's tailor-made for him.
Okay, right, I mean, that's great, and we want our officers to be as safe as possible, and this previous year's retention was pretty good, but the last 4 or 5 years retention is not so great. So we could potentially spend 25%, $4,000 on officers, and then in a year or so have a decent percentage of our officers turn over, and then we are stuck with officers without.
And I don't mean to cut you off, Kevin.
No, sure,
But
you get my point.
I get your point, but I want to stick to my memorandum, which the mayor signed,
I mean,
and
does
it's the
everybody else
safety
understand
committee,
Yeah,
and I do understand where you're coming from.
yeah, I'm just talking
okay?
about a financial.
I mean, I
like a
just,
cost benefit analysis, but yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to talk about this, at another council meeting or a special work session meeting
I get
where
it.
I can talk to all of you at once, that's fine.
I get
I'm
it.
just trying to
I
stick
didn't think it
to,
was out of bounds, but.
I'm just, all I'm trying to do is stick to safety committee members.
Okay.
Okay, so then,
It due respect, chief, point of inquiry, if we ask the chairwoman for permission to inquire during a safety meeting, other council
Can we?
members are.
Is that good? Okay,
Okay.
I just
It's
wanted to
not
make sure I'm,
The chair first.
Right, and I did, I
Okay.
spoke directly to.
You are
Ms.
fine then.
Joyce, okay.
thank you.
You got my point, you got my question.
I do.
Everybody understands my concern of that because
Yeah.
we could be, in a year or two, we could be with 25 to 50% of our officers no longer have what we would consider up to par vest. And then it's just a constant, hamster wheel we're running on. But anyway, I mean, of course, we all want the officers as safe as possible. But anyway, moving on. I'm not
I
trying
got
to take
you.
up everybody's time.
I got you. I didn't realize how old everybody's vests were till I
Yeah.
started asking.
For those officers who are working time or significant number of hours, something like that, are their current employers in those situations, are they not looking to offer them new vests?
I only have one officer that works a full-time police job, besides Michael Wright, that works a full-time police job somewhere else. And their vests are replaced under the same grant program. The vest he wears here is not the vest he's issued at his full-time job. It's a vest that he bought himself because he is mandated by his full-time employer that vest be worn
Well,
while he works at that
Okay.
job.
I was gonna ask.
you could do the same
If I
thing.
recall, you mentioned that.
It is
Hours of service.
correct, and that's why he bought a second vest. And we do have it, even though we don't provide the vest, we do have it in our manual that if you own a vest, you're mandated to wear it.
Oh, but if we buy the vest, with the grant, for 25%, we could mandate that those vests are used for Timberlake duty only. And that way we could extend the life of the vests over a period of time. And
Yet it's still a personal
understand.
item that they wear.
And I know that locks are on doors to keep people honest. He possibly might not follow our directive, but to the extent that we ask them to do that, we ask them. They are mandated to wear them while they're on duty with timber. Like we did some.
Sure, I mean, it would extend.
Okay, well,
I gotta fill that one line.
fine.
Very.
okay. are we
Where
ready?
did we leave off?
Well,
last time? I
Good.
checked. recruitment
Community
and retention.
policing again?
Say what?
Community policing?
We already covered recruitment and retention.
We talked about that at the last,
Can I ask a
meeting.
question?
Sure.
It was on the agenda in November that the police officers were going to get a raise in January. And then it wasn't on in the December, and I'm assuming that was tabled. Paying $18 an hour is a lot for Timberlake. Okay, I realize that. We've gone from, when I took over this department, the officers made $9 an hour. Had it not been for Mr. O'Leary, you know, convincing all of us about the big pay raise, they got $5 an hour. But what I'm looking at now, it's hard to recruit at $18 an hour. Kirkland Hills part-time rate starts at 21 at the low end for no experience and 29 at the high end for experience. But then they have an age cutoff. Timberlake does not have an age cutoff. But what I have had officers say to me is, Chief, do you realize that an unarmed security officer can work at a nursing home or a charter school and make $17.50 an hour and not risk ever having to shoot somebody, ever having to hurt somebody during an arrest and get sued? And that was a sobering moment for me just the other day when one officer specifically told me he had a nephew that was working at a nursing home and he's making $17.50 an hour. Unarmed security.
Can I ask what Grand River's rate?
You would have to ask Mr. O'Leary.
1172 an hour.
Are they having trouble attracting officers to come to work?
All departments are having trouble, but they seem to cover their schedule.
When I tabled that, or I made the motion to table that discussion on pay increases, it was generated because we were in the process of talking about a budget for the year. We had projected expenditures which were greater than our projected revenues. What I thought would be the prudent thing to do as chairperson of the finance committee was to look at that mid-year and make a determination as to where we were in terms of spending, how we were doing, and then decide whether or not we could afford to go ahead and make to release that and make the motion to do that. I don't know that council ever made the proposal that we would increase the pay. It was something that was built into the budget that Mr. Roscoe's put together. And there was never anything where council had a groundswell of we need to do this. It was something that was presented to council, and as chairperson of the finance committee, I made the motion to table until we could have a better understanding of where we were financially. So that's the reason.
Let's get back on track.
Okay,
Community policing.
community policing. Okay, there've been questions that have been directed to us from residents about speed with which our officers arrive and whether or not they're remaining on scenes of incidents that happen within the village until the accidents are cleared. Do you want to respond to that?
Not sure which,
But in general, I think would be helpful for the committee to understand what is the expectation of the officers on response time. If a call comes in.
It depends on the priority of the call, number one. And number two, where the officer is at and what they're doing. I mean, I did have a lady that vented to me at the far end of Keep Waiting because she heard a noise in her backyard. And she said the officer took like 22 minutes to get there, which I pulled the dispatch log. And it was shorter than that, but she was not happy because it was during the night and she heard a noise in her backyard and her security light came on. And I talked to the officer. Again, it depends on where they're at. I mean, I don't mean to be blunt. Restroom. Wear gear that has to be taken off. So it does, I mean, it could impact a response time, but overall, our response times have always remained good. I don't understand why there's an issue with, unless you can give me a particular call and I can pull the dispatch log on it. We have always been very good at our response times.
Well, there was an incident, chief, where, a citizen or a resident was accosted by someone on the street. A 911 call was made. Eastlake showed up before Timberlake did. And then my understanding, what happened was that the officer from Timberlake did not interview anybody at the scene, but actually had the victim have to come to the police department in order to make the report.
That's not correct.
Okay, well, that's,
I mean, I have the report. Mr. O'Leary was provided a copy of the report. She was upset. The officer interviewed her there. A neighbor wanted to walk her home and she preferred to walk home alone. We did provide her with a blank statement form and it was returned to us. I don't believe she ever came to the station when that incident occurred. My officer talked to her out there in the street.
okay, my question would be, why did Eastlake show up first?
Eastlake, when they're on our scanner.
Yeah.
And we keep our scanner on, just like they keep theirs on. I have been in this department for 13 years, and at that particular address automatically comes up. And Eastlake automatically responds when that address comes up because of the violent tendencies of the individual that I'm responding to. Eastlake could very well be right across the street in their parking lot. They stay mobile all the time. When they work a shift, they don't go back to their office. We do. Our village is very, very small. And the officers do go back to the office a lot of times for videos to watch. Opata has a lot of videos on YouTube that we're taking advantage of, training videos, because we don't go to a training class. We're not mobile all the time like Eastlake is. And I do know that a lot of times when I've responded to that address, I'm coming one way, keep waiting, and they're already coming up the other end of the street. I can tell you that there's been a lot of, we've had to tase an individual. We have had to fight an individual. And because of the circumstances for that call, they do automatically respond.
Okay, you're familiar with the report then, you know what how much time was different from when Eastlake responded versus when they responded?
I would have to go back and look at the report. I don't know, but I did go across the street to get Eastlake's CAD, which is their call record. I don't get their reports. I just get their dispatch log, but I would have to go back and pull it to tell you what the times were.
So is this confusion about this? Is Eastlake and Timberlake on two different channels?
Yes,
Okay, so they listen to our channels. We listen to theirs.
we do. Actually, when our scanner is on, we listen to more than Eastlake. I don't know who, when their radio is operating, I don't know who they listen to.
So when you say listen to the scanner, is there a scanner in the office
Yes,
separate and apart from your radio?
yes,
So on your radio, if a call came out and it was on the Eastlake channel, you would not get it.
not unless I was in the car with the scanner on or I'm in the office by the
So
scanner.
Scanners that are in the squad car are the same as the scanners that are in the office.
We have one scanner in the office, yes, and they all stay on the same channel.
And that picks up Eastlake, while your radio picks up Timberlake.
My radio picks up central dispatch. There are 7 departments on my radio channel that we
It
listen.
does not include Eastlake.
No, Eastlake has their own dispatch in-house of their department. And
So
we,
That's why.
correct,
That's why they're in different channels, is because they still
They-
have their own dispatch.
they do not utilize central dispatch. They have their own in-house dispatch. which doesn't give us the capability, even though we hear on the scanner and we'll, you know, if it's an accident with injuries or like this call, many times over the years that I've been here, I will tell radio, I copied direct on the scanner. Just, and by saying that is letting the Eastlake officer know Timberlake knows. So we don't have to wait for the lag time between our central dispatch calling their central dispatch and then coming back to us.
The other question that comes up from time to time is there a set protocol for how often the officers are to ride the community?
Every 2 hours.
How long should that take? Are they going every street? Are they just going?
I tell them to cover every street, but when I do it, I can take as long as an hour. Because I stop and talk to people. I give out dog biscuits. I do house checks. And then, you know, if I've done that in the morning thing, my next round might take me 15 minutes. But a lot, especially now with warm weather, people outside and walking all the time, not just walking dogs, but a lot of people walk. I try to stay mobile, but I'm here in the daytime. I realize staying mobile at night when we're covered up with deer, which is how we got into the issue of light up all the light bar and the alley light. And don't hit a deer. Don't hit a deer. Yes, I do recommend that they patrol once through the village of every 2 hours at least and cover every street.
Should it be more frequent? It only takes 15 minutes to go basically from one to end. Should it not be hourly? The reason I ask that is a lot of times I'll have the folks that will call and talk to me, the conversation will be, they feel comfortable, more comfortable when they see a squad car go by, a police car go by. And if it's just a matter of going from one end to the other, and it's 15 minutes, if are they doing house checks at night?
Yes,
And when you got a house check, is that done once a shift, twice a shift?
weekends we do it every shift. During the week, I do it on day shift and they do it on night shift.
All right. Well, can I get a response first? I'd like to.
If you want it increased, I can tell the guys at night,
Well, I guess
drive
what's-
more often.
What's the downside from them going once an hour as opposed to once every other? Because they're on 8-hour shift,
They're on 8-hour shifts, yes.
so. I understand. I could cover that kind of math. I could go to Catholic, but I can do that kind of
All he
math.
needs is fingers for it.
No, I don't have to take my shoes off. I could get that one done. I'm just saying, I think what I hear when we talk to the safety committee and we talk to a few folks, they would just like to see the car out so that, you know, there's no better deterrent than to have a car going up and down the street so that if somebody's thinking about going into somebody's house or causing a problem, then to know that every hour there's going to be somebody coming by.
We can increase calls at night.
No, in fairness to the night shift, I have reason to be out early Monday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning. And I will see them sitting at the triangle up here at Lakeshore Boulevard, making sure that people aren't flying down Lakeshore Boulevard at midnight and at 1:30 in the morning. So I tell you that they're out, they're actually in the cars. Now, I think that there would be a benefit from having them just run through the village and taking their spotlight and just, you know,
Waking people.
Yeah.
that's all right. You know?
They tend to not use the spotlight now that we do the alley lights, the white light bar up top.
Okay.
Those are called takedown lights.
Okay.
The ones on the end of the light bar are called alley lights. And by keeping the alley lights on, the deer stay away.
Yeah.
The last thing I want is for a deer to run across the road and have a police car hit it. And, you know, the guys do that. They have the takedown lights on and they have the alley lights on.
We have 6 minutes left.
I have-
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a way to quantify? So during day shift. I know you, yeah, and I've seen you and But
I
as,
remember I've been here 13.
sure, you know. But I would say that if we can quantify it, 30 minutes. Then they, there's something for them to go by instead of just patrol every street. That can
You have to
vary.
take into consideration also that we don't have a lot of dispatches, but on the other hand, we have requests. There's a lot of times, maybe the service guys let the mayor know this. I let the mayor know in an email from Mr. O'Leary, a lady walking her dog Monday morning went down the section of Owasso between East Shore and Shaughnessy, and there's 4 sewer lanes, rates, whatever you call them, and she said they stunk. So but she's around the corner on another street, so when she flagged me down to say that, I went back and smelled the sewer grates, okay? And I let the mayor know, so a lot of times when you're talking about a patrol and you want them to go from here to here and across the X and do every street, it depends on what we encounter while we're out on patrol.
Sure, a minimum, you should be out for 30 minutes. If you get a call and that
I mean, I
time
can
or
make
something
it-
comes up, and that counts as kind of patrolling, if
I
you're
mean,
going on a call.
I can increase it. I have asked ever since I have been chief to drive through this village at least once every 2 hours. And I've had people tell me, oh, the guy that drives on whatever night with the lights on, I see him, I stay up late and I'm in my living room with my big screen TV and I know he goes by about every 45 minutes. Okay. I mean, I can tell the guys, increase your nighttime patrols.
So you can appreciate that. That's what they desire, and I know there's logistical concerns and biological break, lunch breaks. And training.
Well, and then you have other responsibilities.
Yes.
So I mean, it's not like it's gonna be like that all the time, but I think, again, what we're talking about in this committee is setting standards that we all agree are in the best interest of the citizens and putting those into practice. And this is one of those that's kind of easy to do. And maybe we're not going to get 8 rounds in a 8-round shift, but maybe we get 6. And again, it's the visibility issue that for me will have citizens coming back and going, I'm really glad that I'm seeing an officer on the street.
I have no feedback. I mean, if there's, other than being here in this committee, send me an email, give me feedback and say, so-and-so resident says, they were up all night and never saw a car go by in 5 hours. I have no feedback, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah, what give that.
Absolutely.
Out there, I'll make sure at those times, especially with establishments across the street.
And you brought that to my attention, and I will tell you that I was stunned. So, going through the drive-through at McDonald's on Surfside, and the lady not even working the drive-through pushed the other girl out of the way and said, oh, I gotta say thank you. I live in, not Dover Place, Sussex, East or West or whatever it is, and she sees me out there in the church parking lot. So, okay.
Chairwoman, we have 4 minutes.
Yes. And one more topic, time
Did we get
cards.
anywhere with the ride-alongs? Did we finish that topic? I know that you had brought up some stuff.
We were waiting on the insurance company. I thought.
I've received nothing additional.
Is this a hard question to ask or?
We asked informally whether the ride-alongs would be
oh,
covered. However, the chief indicated that she would like to have it in writing. So we are awaiting something in writing that indicates that the ride-alongs are covered.
So.
Yeah. So we're still waiting on that.
And I'm still pursuing what I got from other chiefs about turn your computers off, turn your radios off. For what? Well, lead violation, leads.
I think the communication is not a leads issue.
No,
The only time it's a leads issue is if you have to call in or you have to use the leads program.
which is the computer. So, but
I'm sure that there's gotta be a way to work with that, because I know that at least 3 other departments that I'm associated with, where they're doing right on.
when I talked to Kirkland Hills, they said it really was beneficial. It was helpful for the officers as well as council. And it gave them, everybody a new understanding of, but Kirkland Hills, I don't know what their volume of calls are. My main issue is if the village's insurance gives it to us and says, yes, all of you are covered, then I'm not gonna worry about
When
it.
we talk about recruitment and retention, that's one way that we could potentially get a younger person that's interested in law enforcement and get them in, but I think we're up at it, I'm sorry.
Do we have a contact with the insurance company? Is there's like an agent?
It's Kathy Rice.
Kathy Rice?
Yeah, she's usually very responsive. No,
We could set a follow-up
Yeah, we didn't.
before the next council meeting.
Yeah.
We're down to a couple,
Okay, so we'll do that
maybe.
May meeting, which is Tuesday. Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. That would be, the 4th is the 21st,
what time?
3rd.
Probably.
What's it do? Okay, we can pass that at the May meeting.
Thank
The May meeting.
you. I thought you said the main.
No, May,
The
May,
May.
May,
Got it.
May.
MAY. Sounds like I've got marbles in there.
Good Lord.
Make motion.
Second. Question? Roll call.
Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Joyce.
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Okay, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, either by fear or by self-interest. If we do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, without the source of all authority, may we use it in our direct use for the common good for our honor and glory. Call to order, roll call please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye, or here.
Mrs. Joyce,
Aye. Here.
Mrs. Hardwick,
I was,
Mrs. Mara,
you normally have more important things to say.
Mr. Conrad. Mr. Thompson.
Here, present.
Okay, thank you. Move on to public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, please. Anyone being heard? Moving on to the reading and disposition of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the regular council meeting of March 19th, 2024, please? So moved. So Joyce makes a motion.
Second.
Samara seconds. Discussion. Corrections. Roll call please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara,
Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Thank you. Next, do I have a motion to approve the safety committee meeting minutes from April 5th, 2024, please? Samara makes a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Discussion, corrections? I'm being heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to legislation. Ordinance number 5-2024, second reading. An ordinance amending chapter 1064.01, rental of the village hall of codified ordinances of the village of Timberlake and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? Mr. Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion approving ordinance number 5-2024, please?
Move to approve.
Mr. Thompson, it's a motion.
I will second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Discussion.
We write the rental contract, right? All right, I said it. Communicate with all of council at once. I highlighted something on page 1 of the rental agreement and page 2 of the rental agreement that if possible, it may be too late to add it, on the rental agreement, in the email that I sent, a couple years ago, the village hall committee stopped renting out the pavilion separate from the hall on the same day where you had 2 separate events, so that it did away with all the conflict about people walking through here when they had a party in the bathrooms and so forth. Maybe the ordinances have to stay separate because one is for the hall and one is for the pavilion. I understand that. The issue, the first highlighted on the first page I sent to the mayor today, where it says alcohol use, that whole sentence is crossed out. I realize you're still going to have a police officer for the event, and you're crossing out the part about being here a half an hour early, and I understand that. But can you leave the part in that says because they have to say yes or no, circle 1, if yes, a police officer will be required. Can that half of a sentence remain in the contract so that when they're filling the contract out, they realize, even though it says it at the top of page 2, a Timberlake police officer will be furnished at a rate, they have to check the box. Alcohol use, circle 1, yes or no. And in parentheses next to it, it says, if yes, a police officer will be required. Is there a problem with leaving that part of the sentence in?
Mrs. Hardwick, I think that was intention, that there was always going to be a police officer if there was alcohol involved. Our issue was the half hour. And so I agree with the chief. I think that the parenthetical there, where the asterisk is on the first page, if yes, a police officer will be required, and end of parentheses. I think that's intended to stay there. And then the remainder of that paragraph would be deleted. Is that what council remembers our discussion?
I think that's smart to do because they do know people probably don't go past the first page.
Mhm.
Most don't go past the first page.
Thank you.
Redundancy is a good thing with contracts.
Okay, and at the paragraph at the bottom of the second page where it's big capital letters, no parking in the police department, I highlighted, maybe I should have made copies, the sentence that starts with vehicles should be parked on the island. I crossed out on, and I down here at the bottom, I asked, can we add 2 words where it says vehicles should be parked parallel to the island? And I'll explain why I'm asking for that, just to add 2 words in there instead of parked on the island. You would think after 13 years, I would convince people how to park for a special event, but it says 2 wheels off the road. The latest trend is I go outside and I have 6 vehicles already parked on the median and they're nose in, all the way to the other side, with the rear tires sticking out in the roadway. And I come in and do you have the blue BMW? Can you park along? Well, it says park 2 vehicles, two tires on the grass, which means we have an issue with trying to get everybody, stop traffic if we have any, back the cars out and park parallel to the median. Cindy shouldn't have to be specific enough, but this is the issue that we've had. Can we take out parked on the island and put in parked parallel to the island?
Median and island are the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, no, the first part of the sentence says vehicles should be parked on the island with 2 wheels off the road. Can we have it say vehicles should be parked parallel to the island? Vehicle, 2 tires off the road.
You have any problem with that? Perfect.
I just see median and island used interchangeably. If
I like all
island is
the-
something.
I like
that
median
everybody
better.
understands,
Median's better, clear,
That would be better.
especially with the triangles. Yeah.
It just seems to be that every progressive event we have, they're parked nose in on the median. And they say, and I come and say, what's the matter? What's the matter? I have 2 tires on the grass.
Got 2 requests. One, the thermostat and the floor should not be
Right.
touched. I think we should leave
Would
that.
be the
for
right 2 tires.
Where is that?
On the road,
Or the thermostat.
on the road. That's,
Exhibit A, under
I
John.
see what you're saying.
Exhibit A,
Left on the median.
it's about a third of the way down.
Last sentence.
It's cut out.
Won't be touched. That's
Third
the
sentence.
third cross-off sentence. If you want.
I'd like to leave that in, and then also I'd like to leave in the next sentence, all windows and doors must be securely closed and locked. We could take out the failure will result in a fine if we want, but I would say we should leave that part in and make sure that they secure everything, obviously, so. Yeah. And then the coffee maker, we don't want them to unplug it, but, or we do. Well, it does, but like I said, it's not gonna be used for, we don't have any rentals for a month or 2.
It will leave a lot of room.
Right, yeah, but I mean, we don't want them to touch it, right? So, I guess we'll probably end up plugging it in before we don't have our red windows, so. Okay.
It does take a while to
That-
warm
that's
up.
good. So those 2 things I'd like to
Those are
do.
the 4 altogether, talking about changing. 81, I'm gonna put the line out of what less a police officer would be required. Just about sentence to be dropped out. And 2, the mayor requested the thermostat and the floors will not be touched, which is not clarified. Remains, doors, windows and doors should be secure. And then at the bottom of that page, should be parked parallel to the median. Is what we're suggesting instead of on the island.
Maybe we change the page first asterisk sentence, because it says parking on the island.
In the
Make that
median.
median.
So it should be in the median on that one. Those are the 5 changes.
Okay.
Or anything else? Anything else?
I just want to clarify, just make sure I have the correct ordinance. So is this the ordinance number 5 included in the original packet, original agenda? Okay.
Email. Are we gonna go back to renting the hall?
No, somebody, that's the building,
But if they rent the pavilion, they still get the hall, don't they?
no,
Only for use
no,
of bathroom.
if there's if there's rain, they will charge. For the.
Plus there's the pavilion without the hall. And if you rent the hall, you get the pavilion with it, correct?
That if they're renting the pavilion, I will mention to them that if they're in bad weather and you're still having your event, they will, use the hall because it's connected and there's no double booking for hall will be empty. But they will be charged the difference. I don't get that many people.
Yeah, everything else, people, yeah.
All the things. Obviously, as in any situation, now, experience issues, we go back and address these. That's why this thing gets amended.
I do have one question with regard to the rental of the hall when alcohol is on for the event. We have a police officer on duty. The pavilion is allowed to have alcohol. At the, if alcohol is allowed and it's an event that has been planned and paid for.
I asked for the ordinance to be rewritten because it makes a dilemma for the police department, because our ordinance, the way it's written now, says no alcohol at the parks. And
On the side of block over.
We're saying, we're differentiating.
parcel A,
Versus
but it doesn't say that in our old ordinance. It just makes reference to the park. And I wanted to specify that's separate from this so that we're not actually violating our own ordinance when somebody has an alcohol event at the pavilion. And we covered this like 2 summers ago, but then we never moved forward with rewriting it. And yes, that to answer your question, yes, it puts a dilemma on the police department. Because without specifying that's parcel A and this is part of the village hall, technically, yes, there are alcohol events in violation of the ordinance that the chief has to provide an officer for.
So the building is on village property, not on parcel or property. So therefore it is part of village property, which means it's covered under the village hall. Like the rental agreements, the insurance, everything is covered. And we have the rental
I
agreement.
think the only struggle that I could foresee is if you have people that are here that are renting and decide to run over to play.
Cornhole or whatever.
That's where the officer is going to say, you need to keep alcohol.
That's why they have an officer.
I think that's.
The officer can control
Yeah,
that area.
Yeah,
That's
I think so.
But for instance, we had our reception for our daughter. And the officer on duty specifically came to the officer who was working our event to make sure that there was no alcohol going out the pavilion. Now, as it turned out, there wasn't. But that to me was, my understanding was that the party was for both venues and for us to have the police policed our guests so that they didn't wander out to the pavilion. That I thought was,
I brought up rewriting the first part of at a rental event at the hall. It's the bocce ball set up.
Cornhole.
Cornhole.
All that set up, and they had games over there. All I wanted to do was say, you could have alcohol in the park. Because
I don't know that we want to have alcohol.
but that's the problem, by saying no alcohol is allowed in the park. And when they rent the pavilion, they're using all of this.
That's where the officer said,
Yeah.
that alcohol is not to go beyond the pavilion or the building.
But they can use it.
They can go over and use it, they just can't take alcohol.
Okay.
and I think maybe we make that clear to any of the renters.
As a summer condition.
Absolutely.
yeah.
But we're gonna have another reception here in July.
So it's your.
It is
Yeah,
our fault.
We're the
I-
problem. We gotta stop
I
getting
take
married.
full responsibility.
Gotta run out of some kids.
You know, it's my family.
Any more concerns or questions?
So we got those five.
Okay.
You got them down, Mr. Bass?
Yes.
I'll make those changes and get them uploaded to the website. So if there's no other further questions or changes,
So. We'll go back, Mr. Thompson, you made the motion to approve the ordinance. Are you okay with approving it with the 5 amendments that have been recommended?
Absolutely.
And then. So are you okay with that? Okay, I just want the record to reflect that the motion and the second on the approval included those amendments so that it's clear for the minutes.
okay, roll call please.
Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson.
Next, ordinance 6-2024, first reading, and ordinance amending chapter 1064.02, rental of the village hall pavilion of the codified ordinances of the village of Timberlake and declare an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? Mr. Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson.
You got a motion approving ordinance number 6-2024, please. Ms. Mara makes a motion. Hardwick seconds it. Discussion, please.
So what if any changes?
I'm thinking that for ordinance 5/2024 F, section 1F, that maybe we add a line to, if they talk about alcoholic beverages being consumed on the premises, that we define those premises to include the pavilion and the village hall only. So is that, and if
You're
you're
talking about 5.
And that's,
We just passed 5.
oh, okay, sorry, talking about 6.
I mean, we can always go back and amend that to clarify what premises included. But I think the rental agreement is pretty clear.
Yeah, the rental agreement is pretty clear, but just so that we have some, congruity with the, what the chief is saying, that it gets confusing, that perhaps if we have the opportunity tonight to adjust the ordinance.
Could you just mention the alcohol or are you?
Well, that's what it says here. If alcoholic beverage will be consumed and or served on the premises.
Right,
Now,
but
the way that I see that is, that's the alcohol, that's the premises. That's something.
Yes, but the whole property includes the pavilion, is what we're trying to emphasize. Okay, so do we need to say that in F or G rather, or is that implied?
But you're not talking about restricting the people who rent the hall or the pavilion from going over there.
No, but just not taking alcohol.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
But if
I
you-
guess because the rental agreement is specific. If this can stay right term,
Okay, all right, that's fine.
It's called out in the day.
my concern would be if it's changed, so.
We have to go back and
we
change.
need to go back and change.
Okay,
So. We'd rather come back and do that.
all right, let's see how it runs, and
Yeah.
if there's
Summer's here.
confusion, we can come
So-
back and.
If something's gonna get screwed up.
It will.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
So far, we've been visiting it once a year, so.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you
Right.
should, because
It's just what we do.
little like people-
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick, Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, the reports, mayor's report. We had some storms coming in. Mr. Thompson will fill us in a little bit on the storm issue that we had the other day. We had some, storms issues, flooding and so forth. Mr. Conrad will give us a detailed, synopsis on all that, so I won't have to go through that. And, we're working on, basically, we're gonna try to get these storm poles installed, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. That the weather breaks here just every time it rains and then it gets wet, so we've got to be able to get equipment in there to bring in there. And we don't want to make ruts, so that, and those things are heavy and we need to get our motor. So
600 pounds.
whatever dries up, we'll get those in, but in the meantime, that's not going. Same thing with the playground up there. We need to put those, big tactile, I believe, in. So we'll try to get that in, and then we're gonna look at maybe even touching up the mulch area this year. We can always get a little bit here and there and touch it up, and then look at some painting and stuff. But again, Mr. Conrad will get into the details of that stuff. But other than that, I had mayors and managers and Wendy Zeely from First Energy. She gave a little presentation. I'm gonna pass this around, just a little flyer of just some program incentives, lighting and so forth. If you guys think there's any value, but that's all that is. But other than that, there's really nothing else I have. So moving on, solicitor's report, Mr. O'Leary.
Okay, Mayor, the only thing that I really have is, some of you are already aware, I'm heading out of town tomorrow. Many of you know I have a family member that requires folks to be around him for, on a daily basis, and so it's our turn again. It's been 3 months. I can't believe it's been since January since I was been there. So tomorrow I leave, I'll be gone for about a week. I obviously will be available by phone, email. Don't call me at 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll be 5 a.m. there, so please. And the only other thing is, we're still waiting on the second report from Willoughby Court on the one of the cases we've got pending on the competency of the defendant. And as soon as I hear more about that, I'll advise counsel as to where we are. Chief, you haven't heard anything?
Not a
From-
word.
Okay.
I checked the website to see if anything was posted.
Well, I know that the judge immediately signed it when I submitted it. So it has to be done. The question will be whether or not there's any interference.
Well, I
towards-
did get an email from the dad who advised that he didn't understand why we asked for it.
Right.
And he would speak to the doctor that did said, take that up.
Right. So anyway, we're continuing to pursue that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Hardwick, Village Hall report.
I'm having a bit of a dilemma. With our village club people and our council people, when it comes to painting the playground
Okay, be nice.
Painting the playgrounds are in bad shape and need to be sanded down, repainted, whatever. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, Mayor. If the service department people want to do it all, I'm fine with that because that affects my budget. Do you want Village Club to what? Because they're waiting for,
Ben?
well, that. Or service to the benches, because that's, a lot more, and then,
I mean, we can have students do it, so, it's.
We're worried about taking away time from them.
right,
We don't
yeah.
wanna take away the-
Yet Village Club wants to do a community service.
I mean, if the Village Club wants to do it, that's, they've already offered in the past and done it in the past, I mean, it's not a thing that, the service department is looking forward to being doing, actually, we've got enough other projects to work on, so.
So I
If we have
will,
volunteers for it, great, whatever they don't get to, we'll have our service guys finish up,
okay, so,
we can handle it that way, they're welcome to do as many as they want.
The boats were very, very professional. They went through, last night, you remember, they went through a copy, sand them. Let them sit for a while and sand them again, and we're very, they wanted to do a professional job. They might take some.
so maybe I'll divvy the benches to the service guys and then leave the playground for volunteers to be painted.
Sure.
Do we still need paint, or do we have paint left over from
I
last
would have to-
year? Okay,
You can ask, Brent, we'll know.
okay. Okay, we'll let them know.
And whatever we need to just get a PO on it and put some more paint.
Right, right.
So the boats up so much.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna
And the
get,
benches too, or just the playground?
just the playground.
Okay.
But our guys, because it's sanding, and electricity, I mean, I would think they'd have to bring them out to the service garage to have the electricity for sanders and whatnot, and do the work by the service garage and then stick them back out.
We have some cordless, sandals.
Oh, fine. Okay,
All right,
but the guys are gonna do that.
yeah, we'll take it.
Okay, okay. Because I don't want to step on anybody's toes with, hours and what they need to work. The hall's really booked up pretty tight, and that's about all I have.
All right, Rand, Rants and sewers.
Guess I'll start with the recent one. Called, happened to be the day the mayor was out of the village. Gano, same house, shout out. Alan, backwards for sewers. Flush. Up. For tomorrow. First. We'll take care of that. Hopefully that mitigates the problem. It tends to be the first rain comes or in spring. Honest. From. There are other sides we. Last. Who put it. The other thing was, Frank, you didn't touch on the LGF at all. There, but we did, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend Fridays ago. I 70 out. Talking about equalization funds and all of these formulas, and at the end of the day, I raised the question, you know, how are you gonna take the spreadsheet? Turn it into a report? We can easily put whatever you want in each cell, but it's not gonna. How you're actually. Estimated what the statute. That's the big push is townships are, they are for resident pieces. Last. So there is some disparity in what each township. There's reasons why it was set up that way. They aren't willing to listen to that rationale they want. Aidsville and Wickliffe are set to lose substantially. Action. We've been working on it, put together funds. We're gonna propose it. I think the mayor will try to go on Thursday to commissioner. Like, just either way, they've said we'll be made whole. The last proposal, we were flat. The problem with that is as the fund grows, we won't grow with it. So we're missing out on 7 years. They're targeting for. like.
Are they on the website?
No, I put like kind of what we should do, name, first paragraph, this kind of guide. So,
But I think because people then would understand exactly what should go into the letter. It's one thing to request a letter, but if you don't know how to start it.
Well, I did put a template though. Here's
Well, you
like
did.
An example one, I put an example of,
Oh, all right. All right. I'm sorry, I apologize.
yeah, but I'm saying like just, I'll write the whole thing out, make 3 different versions of it. Or even one, and say, here's a template to.
These get submitted with the.
Yeah.
applications.
Your parts.
Um,
Another grant.
right, that, I was thinking that was rolled into this, our previous, meetings this today, but yeah, we talked about adding that on.
They'll have a.
It is linked.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, we do have some. Right. We're getting rid of current, structure. Basically, two. What's off?
Thank you. Mr. Joyce, Finance.
Um, I, I don't know if this is, I guess it's appropriate. But, during our, safety committee meeting, we talked a little bit about the, X-26 lasers. And, it was unknown who the manufacturer was. I just did a quick Google search and Axon makes those as well.
Exxon brought out.
Well, according to the Google search, X-26P tasers are made by Axon.
Correct.
So, okay.
I mean,
All right.
Taser used to be an individual.
All right, I'm using taser like Kleenex, okay, yes, in a generic sense. But my point was, is that the X-26s and the X-26Ps are both Axon products. So I think that the comment was made during the, safety committee meeting that you were not sure who manufacturer was on the tasers that are currently in use. They are Axon
I'm
products.
not sure where we got the part of what we paid for.
Okay. Other than that, I really don't know.
Excellent, next Thursday, yeah.
We don't get a pick in the first round.
We're good. Good gal in the round.
He's from.
So, yeah, so I hope I can attend, if anyone else would like to attend.
It's, I'll look at the, that's interesting.
Explain.
I think, what the vote is that, the current council members will no longer be part of the council at the end of the 7 years. And so therefore, they essentially are going to say, "It happened on my watch."
Well, they made that. Okay.
Nice. Right.
Mm.
Right.
They also said they could zero out all the. They could zero out 11 communities. Center and vote.
Yeah.
This should have a vote.
But there's currently 14 of them that will lose something at the end of the 7 years.
Right, but they can make 11 lose something, go to zero, and have 14 gain the rest, and then it pass.
If the commissioners will allow that to happen, then
That'll be huge.
But that would
You think our council is paying attention to what's going on?
Well, I don't know, but township trustees there, so. There, so. some folks.
Well, the problem with the partners, metro partners, is that you want to talk about population served. There are more people that are served by the Lake Metro Parks than Mentor or any of the townships. And all that does is if they take that money away, is they're going to guarantee that the Metro Parks is going to end up putting another money on the ballot. And so it's just gonna, the trickle down is still gonna end up with us as taxpayers.
Paying more.
And that's the problem I have. You know, this greed that comes from the townships is horrible. And Galloway should be ashamed of himself to be a public official that is pulling the water just for Concord Township because they stand to gain the most.
Like 400% argument, well, we were gonna need 400%.
On the back of all the due diligence.
We're gonna get right.
Was Galloway the one that said that we could zero out the?
She's right. The way the laws.
They want to assure that it's in litigation for many years to come. They go right ahead and do that.
That'll pass through. And they did have a meeting. Started this whole thing. Had to go on and so forth.
Do you think they were surprised with the pushback? Yeah, I mean, us and, I mean, but.
I mean, are they a fan of you?
They listen to me more.
There.
But the perfect formula, they put it in place in 1982. And there's no reason why they cannot return to that formula. Other than the fact that they don't get as much as they would get if they were population based.
Right.
That's why we paid for it.
That is bring back those two sheriff's deputies they had to give up from the levy bill. About $600,000.
That they have. A lot of.
The township's responsible for township road. The state's responsible for state road. So, yeah. Everybody does their own. Anyway,
Like nothing.
Right.
Okay.
I think, right.
Ryan's time. Okay,
Joyce?
the Public Safety Committee has been meeting, on kind of an ongoing basis, taking a long look at, you know, bringing our police equipment up to speed, bringing our, not just equipment, but policies, meeting the community standards around us. So we're in the process of, collecting quotes, looking at age of equipment, making sure, sorting out, doing research on grants that'll help, pay for some of these things. And, I would expect in the next few weeks, we'll have some specific, standards we'd like implemented for the village, just to ensure that both our officers are in the best position to handle whatever they're confronting and that our villagers are feeling safe in their homes. So there'll be more on that to come.
Okay, thank you. Samara?
Handle a couple complaints about leaves. And hopefully that person, Miss King, you're there. No, she's still there? Okay, so I'll have to go back out again. Let's remember, everybody, this Republic is picking up all our refuse, correct? As long as it's properly bagged. So I have to go back out a second time. All the yard waste. I'll have to go out a second time. And we also need some, I hope this gets in the minute, some volunteers. If anyone needs a service hour, some kids, some scouts to help some of these people pick up these leaves. You know, when people say, I thought we had leaf pickup. Well, no, we don't, you know, but your leaves have been there for 6 months. Okay. So these are the complaints I'm getting. And garbage cans have to be out of sight. Am I right? Garbage cans have to be out of sight. These have to be off the, and I've had less and less and less phone calls about feeding animals. So thank you, whoever stopped feeding their animals. Thank you. Less phone calls, but still there is no feeding the wild animals. Not anti-deer, but I'm just anti-rodent. So that's it. That's all I have to report.
The problem is that our lots are not standard size, and there's people on corners. For instance, I'm not really sure unless I put it in my garage, that I can keep them outside. You know, because they can see from Shawandasi if they're in the backyard, they can see from Oasis and Shawandasi, if they're on the side, they're behind my, if they're, you can actually see Lake Shore if they're on the other side. So I'm not sure how exactly we would comply with that. And my feeling is if they're not on the street in
I look
pickup.
at the ordinance, guess, and I thought it was behind the front setback, so you're still gonna be able to see them, but it's behind
Yeah.
the setback of your, whatever, garage or whatever. Why? I don't know why we would have gone forward. I think they would, thought when I looked at the ordinance, it said, be on the side of the house, and I said, you don't like break through the trash can, and it's actually kind of vehicle on the front of the house, but this is a house that sits on an angle on a corner lot. And you want me to tell them to put it on the side of the house, so now you're gonna get to see the bright blue can that you don't like.
So I don't know how you do that.
These are the complaints.
And then, you know, building a shed, there's, you gotta get a permit, you gotta, you know, so it's. I know what the intent is. You don't want the stuff laying around on the street after the trash has been picked up. Get them back by the. Yeah, I think maybe we ought to take a look at that ordinance. Vamp it, make.
When I first got on council, I was with somebody who really didn't want to see, but I have no preference, but to me, hands on the side show that we didn't move it, something nicer, something on the front or something. But, so yeah, maybe we should revisit it, but because you said the labor position here, someone's gonna see something. Yeah, we did.
Good.
So then I'll go back out.
Thank you, Mayor. Ryan, would you like to add anything? Anything, anyway, thank you. As far as, trees go, last Friday, there were some high winds, and around 8 p.m. There was a, medium to large tree that came down and intersect between Nepalwin and Shawandasi. It was dark out. Nancy, actually messaged me. And normally it would be, I would be the liaison between the village and a tree company to get out there. And she said the mayor had gone out there and Brent was out there, Brent Gardner. So I thought about going out there and then I realized I'm not covered under workers' comp, so no, thank you. So, but Brent Gardner, our service department members, Brent Gardner and Jim Summers and the mayor went out there to take care of it. So thank you for that and be careful. So that whole, workers' comp thing.
Well, let me interject real quick. I got a phone call from Brent because it happened right in front of his house. He was right there in the corner. So he called, he came down, I'm heading over to here in service, this and that. Can't get a hold of his yet. Okay, Steve, we know he just had the operation for hernia, so I'm like, okay. Jim Summers, he's 10 minutes away, so I figure, well, by the time he gets there. So I did the next best thing. I grabbed my chainsaw, which was ready to go, and I threw it in the car and I ran over there, told Brandon, says, don't come to the service yard. I'll just meet you there. And then we just started cutting up, moved it out of the way. It took us a half hour to get out of there. No, actually I put my shoes on this time, but afterwards, but what I did do is I didn't call my wife after to tell her everything was cool.
What?
I went to Walmart and shopped.
Well, we appreciate you going above and beyond. Stop setting the expectations so high for the rest of us, though. So that would be appreciated. Anyway,
Have those bright green vests that everybody wears now.
Oh, yeah, we always do. We work on Lake Shore, use that, we put the lights on and everything, but this was nighttime, the police car was there with the lights on, I had my truck with the lights on. And again, there was nobody around us. Believe me, they're not gonna, believe me, if anyone came around, we're gonna put them to work. Nobody came around, so didn't have to worry about anyone not seeing us.
You were ready to go out. But
we had just put our son to sleep and I'm like talking with my wife back and forth. Should I go out there? I was like, I should, but then I could die and
I'd rather not.
my 1-year-old wouldn't have a father. So I decided the cost benefit analysis was in favor of staying home and communicating via modern technology. But thank you,
How's it
Mayor, for
going?
taking care of that. And
Insurance agent and not the insurance. that he has on it.
yeah, Mr. Ross, I want that in writing that. Anyway, and in our service department too, we owe them a debt of gratitude for taking care of this kind of stuff on a moment's notice. They're on call, they live in the village. To go out there at 8 p.m. when it's windy and dangerous, and that's, I definitely do, favor giving them a raise when if we do have our budget intact. Trees as a whole throughout the village, as our trees begin to flower, when most of them to all of them are flowering, we should talk to Brent Gardner about making another list of problem issues, and then we can assess that and maybe get a couple companies come out and assess what kind of cost that would be to trim, to take down some of the more dangerous trees. And that would include, obviously all on village property, but even along the right of way if it's deemed a danger. But and we'll have to go down that road when we actually see it and we get the quotes, because it's going to be an astronomical price to take care of everything. So we're going to have to do it in sections and in small lots. So going back to the ordinances, we've had complaints about brush and the garbage cans. It does sound like we're gonna have to look at that ordinance. I know some people, corner lots aside, that's very difficult in this village, how our property lots are set up. But as far as normal houses on straight roads, I think some people have to put up the board on board L-shaped fences, and that hides the and I'm not like a hawk as far as ordinance goes. We all know that. But when people complain about brush, but their trash cans are
Bingo.
visible on the side of their house, tomato, which is more important? Like maybe brush is important to you, but garbage cans is important to person B. So some people don't like seeing boats and RVs, and some people are like, that's my toy. Why can't I put it in my yard? So it's ordinance enforcement is in a village this size especially is a very delicate. So I did go down to the city of Euclid and I picked up a citation that they use. I talked to their building and housing inspectors. So I'm gonna talk about this maybe in another meeting, but I'm willing to talk about it and show everybody how they do it, how they put the citations on garbage cans, et cetera, to enforce their garbage can ordinances. And this also covers the yards and trees and stuff like that. But as far as the garbage cans, it says garbage can violations receive one warning, the second and all subsequent garbage can violations incur a fee. And that's just how it's going. And there's two pieces of tape on the back. So they tape the can shut and they move the can to the center of the driveway. So when people are coming home from work, they see that. And that's not, we need to be careful when we do things like that. Cause we're a small village. We're not a village of, we're not a city of 35,000 people. When you tick off a small number of people in a village of 630 people, that it really matters. So we just,
Help with the council.
it would. It would. Maybe not the type of attention we were hoping for, but.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, so that's for another discussion, but anyone can see that and see if we want to approve or look into something like this, just for people who are constant violators. I'm not as much concerned about eyesores as I am about safety, and garbage cans left on the roadway for days is a safety issue when there's winds that could be going into the road, etc. But as Mr. Joyce pointed out, prior to this meeting, we had a safety meeting, and I didn't want to take up all the committee's time, but I would like to reiterate something that Mr. O'Leary brought up. If the chief would consider more frequent night patrols around the village, I think everybody would like that. And like Mr. Joyce, I've seen them go around. Sometimes I'm up late at night and I see them with the lights. And so I know they're doing their job. But it is comforting to know, especially with how dark our village is, we don't have a lot of street lights, which is good. That's the charm of Timberlake. But that's when people break in the cars and conduct burglaries. And if I were one of those people and I saw a squad car coming down every 15 minutes, I'd stay away. So, but yeah. Right. So so if you consider that, that would be great. Thank you. And I do think they're seeing enough, but more often would be even better. What else? Earlier, we were talking about the changing the pavilion rental ordinance, and we were discussing keeping alcohol there and restricting it from parcel A, which would be governed under the parks ordinance in general. That discussion implies that council has the authority to govern and restrict and extend the rights and privileges of lot owners and lot buyers in regards to parcel A. No further discussion on that until the next committee meeting. I just wanted to note that.
Little teaser.
Coming attractions.
I'd just like to
I'm
make
gonna be
a
sick
comment
that
that it was darn considerate of that tree to fall down from
Very convenient, very convenient.
Somehow.
Coincidence? I think not.
Okay, there's nothing else there. Fiscal officer, nothing report, Mr. Raskus. Please. Thank you.
Where are we on the cruiser fund? So that would take us to 55 if we allocate that, because, you know, the lead time on these vehicles is upwards of a year. And I think that maybe not now, but by the end of the summer, we should be, if we maintain this general fund surplus, we should seriously look at making that commitment on the cruiser, being that it won't be delivered till 25 anyway. If the financials allow. I don't, it's too early to know right now, but, and that's separate apart from anything short. Moving on now.
Police chief, nothing to report, please.
I think I report from Sheriff's Department IT. Email. So I sent him, sent him, good morning, what do I have to do to go to this category because we don't have business. So then he has sent it to some.
Is there anything reported in this?
I mean, there was one month, there was 14, I'm like, you know, the business, okay, I mean, they'll find it, send it to me, and, you know, they were selling, and his response was, chief, my guess is that they were, well, they were, and the whole, and I requested lawyer mistake. And I one or assist BCs from across the map of the total. Community policing 55, house checks we did 113, 5 investigations, 1 noise complaint, 5 phone complaints, 1 parking violation, 1 scam complaint, 1 suspicious person, and 1 road. For a total of 193.
Thank you. Zoning and property maintenance, I don't have anything to report for Gary Gray this month. Under purchases and approvals, do I have a motion to approve the March 2020 for financial reports, please. Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Conrad seconds. Any discussion on those? Okay, roll call, please.
Guys, aye. Guys.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the second public portion, comment portion. Do we have any comments? Hearing none. Anything else anyone wants to add? No. Oh,
Yeah, there's a guy there, they'll buy it.
Yeah, they're all over there. They're going for the Chiefs. win.
Someone must.
A deer.
I'm way over.
Yeah, are they lot owners, not buyers?
well,
Don't drink alcohol.
Okay, sorry.
so
See what I started? I apologize.
it's okay.
Vegas.
Did you say a motion to adjourn? Is that what you said?
That's what I was about to say, but if you want to talk about the deer more. Motion. Mr. Conrad seconds. Roll call, please.
Adequately, aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.